The desert wind howled as Abraham sat outside his tent, gazing into the endless expanse of sand and stars. His heart was heavy with longing. For years, he and his wife Sarah had prayed for a child, a son to carry on his lineage. But time had not been kind. Sarah, now advanced in age, had all but lost hope. Yet the promises of God rang in Abraham's heart. Look toward the heavens and number the stars if you are able to number them. So shall your offspring be. But how could this be? Sarah, his beloved wife, remained barren. Desperation led Sarah to a painful decision, one that would forever alter the course of history. She turned to her maidservant Hagar, an Egyptian woman who had served her faithfully. Go to her, Sarah told Abraham one night. Perhaps through Hagar you may bear the son that God has promised. Abraham, torn between faith and practicality, agreed. And so Hagar conceived and bore him a son, Ishmael. From the moment he was born, Abraham rejoiced, believing that God's promise had finally been fulfilled. Ishmael grew strong, running freely through the desert, his father's pride in his every step. But harmony did not last. As the boy grew older, tensions arose between Sarah and Hagar. Sarah watched as Ishmael played in the fields, a daily reminder of what she could not provide. Jealousy took root and her patience wore thin. The presence of Hagar and her son became unbearable. Then when all hope seemed lost, the impossible happened. Despite her old age, Sarah conceived. The whispers of divine intervention turned into shouts of astonishment when she bore a son, Isaac. The household erupted in joy, but beneath the surface, a quiet storm brewed. Ishmael, once the only son, now had a rival. As Isaac grew, so did the tension between the brothers. One fateful day, Sarah saw Ishmael playing with her son and took offense. She turned to Abraham, her voice laced with urgency. "Cast out this slave woman and her son," she demanded. "For the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." Abraham's heart wrenched in anguish. Ishmael was his son too, his firstborn, his flesh and blood. But God spoke to him, reassuring him that though Isaac would carry the covenant, Ishmael would also become a great nation. With a heavy heart, Abraham obeyed. Before dawn, Hagar and Ishmael were sent away, wandering into the wilderness of Beersheba. The sun blazed overhead as their water ran dry. Hagar, overcome with despair, placed her son beneath a bush, unable to watch him perish. She wept, and then the voice of an angel called out to her. "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him a great nation." At that moment, Hagar's eyes were opened, and she saw a well of water. She rushed to it, filled her container, and gave Ishmael to drink. The boy revived, and as he grew, he became a mighty archer, his descendants forming great nations. Yet even as Ishmael and his mother made their new life in the wilderness, the divide between the brothers was set in stone. Isaac remained with his father, growing under the covenant that God had promised. Ishmael, the son cast out, would forge his own path, his destiny separate yet intertwined with his brothers. Thus two sons, both loved, both blessed, would walk different roads, one in the house of his father, the other in exile. And so began a division that would echo through the centuries, shaping the beliefs and destinies of nations. Years passed, and Abraham watched his sons from a distance, knowing that both carried a part of him within them. Though separated by land and fate, Ishmael and Isaac remained bound by an unspoken connection, a lineage born of divine promise and human struggle. One fateful day, Abraham was given a test that would shake the foundations of faith itself. "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, and offer him as a sacrifice." The command was clear, yet it carried a profound contradiction. Had not God promised that his descendants would multiply through his sons? How then could he ask for such a sacrifice? Abraham's heart was heavy, but his faith was unwavering. He set out to obey, bringing his son to the mountain as instructed. Here the story diverges between two great traditions. In the Jewish and Christian accounts, it was Isaac whom Abraham took to be sacrificed. The Bible describes how father and son ascended Mount Moriah together. Isaac, carrying the wood for the offering, asked innocently, "Father, "Where is the lamb?" Abraham, concealing his anguish, responded, "God will provide the lamb." At the peak of the mountain, he built an altar and laid Isaac upon it. As he raised the knife, a voice called out from the heavens, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God." Abraham turned and saw a ram caught in a thicket, a divine provision. He sacrificed the ram in place of his son, and the covenant with Isaac was affirmed. Through him, the chosen people of Israel would come. But in the Islamic tradition, as recorded in the Quran, it was not Isaac but Ishmael who was tested. Ishmael, raised in the harshness of the desert, had grown into a strong and obedient son. When his father revealed the vision of his sacrifice, Ishmael did not resist. "Father, do as you are commanded," he said. "You will find me steadfast." As Abraham prepared to fulfill the command, God intervened, providing a great sacrifice in place of Ishmael. In this tradition, Ishmael was seen as the rightful heir to Abraham's devotion, and from his descendants would come a great nation, the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad. Thus, from a single test of faith emerged two interpretations, each shaping the destinies of billions. Ishmael settled in the deserts of Arabia, becoming the father of 12 princes, his lineage growing into mighty tribes. His descendants, known as the Ishmaelites, spread across the lands, becoming traders, warriors, and rulers of vast territories. From his bloodline came the Prophet Muhammad, through whom Islam would arise, uniting the Arab world under a new covenant with God. Isaac, meanwhile, remained in the land of Canaan, his descendants forming the nation of Israel. From his lineage came Jacob, later known as Israel, and the 12 tribes that would shape biblical history. Through this line, Moses, David, and ultimately Jesus Christ would emerge, each carrying forward the covenant first given to Abraham. Yet despite their separate destinies, the brothers were never truly severed. Years later, when Abraham breathed his last, both Ishmael and Isaac stood together at his grave, side by side, burying the father they both loved. The legacy of two brothers. The story of Ishmael and Isaac is not just one of rivalry, but of intertwined fates. It is a story of faith tested and fulfilled, of promises made and kept, of the struggle to understand divine will. It is a reminder that though paths may diverge, the roots remain the same. Even today, the echoes of their division resonate through history. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all tracing their origins back to the same Father. And yet, within that division lies a deeper unity. The children of Abraham, though different in faith and tradition, remain bound by the same ancient promise. Perhaps, in the end, the lesson is not just about which son was chosen, but about the love of a father who wished to see both of them blessed. And so, the story of Ishmael and Isaac lives on, written not just in scripture, but in the very fabric of human history.